The first thing you gotta do is check. Did you hit it?
Girl.
If it's a machine, did you unplug it and plug it back?
Did you restart it?
Did you restart? That's always the first.
But I normally hate them type of questions. Robert will tell you like that's a pet peeve of mine to be asked what I call are like common sense questions. I get so mad. I be like,
but it may not be that common for everybody. Somebody might be like, you know what? I didn't
know me well enough to know that it's common enough for me. Now, come on now. Come through.
The tech man on the phone, he know you will.
No, because sometimes Robert will ask me common stuff and I'd be mad. I'd be like, really? Like one time when
these years.
Girl, I lost my keys. I didn't lose them. They fell because it was the key fob, to push to start. So my key fob fell out of my pocket. And I don't know if it was the key. No, it wasn't the key fob. It was keys. It was actual keys. And I put them in my pocket as I was getting out. And then I couldn't find them. And I'm like, I don't drop this key somewhere. So I went and told him to come help me find the key. And he was like, did you check the ignition?
Did you check the ignition?
Sis.
He said the stubborn mixed with ignition.
The man asked me, did I leave it in the ignition? When I say I was mad, I was heated. I said, really? You think that
you never know? It might have been a rough day, and it might have been a rough day.
You gonna try to swoop in and help your brother, but that's a no.
He was just looking out for you.
That's a negative. That's a nah. That's a nah.
Okay, I tried.
You tried it. You tried it. I hope if nothing else, he give you some props for trying it because you tried to come through for him, but nah. But nah. Been a couple weeks since we've been on. Last Wednesday, I just needed some me time.
Yes, guys, self-care.
I had to. It was.
Oh, you gonna take your me time?
And that's exactly what I did. I said, you know what? I'm tired, but I was more like tired, not tired, but tired. And I was like, okay, I need some.
Wasn't that the last show we did? I'm tired. Show before that.
Tired. I was exhausted, and so I said, you know what? I can't heal others, and I can't talk and do the healing work if I'm not in the healing space. And I think that we absolutely underestimate that sometimes. Here on Oh We Gonna Talk, we say a lot about making sure we're not pouring from an empty cup. And I was definitely pouring from an empty cup. And I was like, okay, I can't do this. I need to take a day for me, focus on me, just not worry about nothing. And that's what I did. But we back. And in these 2 weeks, I've been having a lot of conversations about communication and how we are really, really, really struggling with that communication factor. Just understanding where each other is coming from. And I said, you know what? This is something that we absolutely need to talk about because it is a generational thing. I think that we're not teaching, and I'm trying to put the fun bags away. Hold on. We absolutely don't talk enough about communication and what that really means, what it looks like, how important it is, how much so our communication is broken at this point that now we can absolutely not hear each other. And I think we hinted on this when we did I'm Tired, why I'm tired. And we had the female to male perspective. But I think that we need to really just focus on communication in itself. So I have a question for you, sis, while we go ahead and dive into this so that we can give everybody their full hour. Because I've had some complaints where they like, hey, I'm used to the 2 hours, but I'm like, I know, but it's Wednesday, it's hump day, snowfall is back. I'm trying to respect people's time.
Snowfall is back.
Snowfall is back. Franklin's back. We can't miss good old Franklin. So what does communication mean to you?
Ooh, communication. Now, this is a hot topic right here because communication is so important for every aspect of your life, for every relationship you have. is super duper important. And so for me, communication means transparency. Communication means not making assumptions.
Mm.
Communication means being thorough. So even if you think I already know, go to the beginning of what you said earlier. I need you to state it and make it clear. Because when it comes to communication, I think that those are the areas where things fall off, those three in
Mm-hmm.
particular. When it comes to being transparent, a lot of times we don't want to say how we really feel or communicate how we feel or what's going on because we're afraid of how somebody else may perceive it, because it may cause conflict, because. And so we're not transparent. We tuck stuff down. We don't say what we need to say. We beat around bushes and not be direct. Oh, being direct. That got to be a point all on its own. Being direct. So being transparent means you may feel some kind of way about this, but I do too. So I'm gonna say this from love. I'm gonna say it with kindness. That's also important about communication. But I need you to understand how I feel so that we can get to a place where I don't feel this way. And if you feel somewhat type of way, I want you to come to me with the same position so that we can make sure that you don't feel some type of way and I don't know about it. So that's why transparency is important. Also keeping those lines open and communicating often because things shift. So y'all may have talked about it year one, and then year three come around, and the same situation may
It's
come up, but
different.
now y'all feel completely different about it. So
Mm-hmm.
communicating often, as it may shift, because it may shift. Communicating often. So those are my things about communication.
And I want to pinpoint on some of those. Welcome, Brian. That's my cousin. He's waving at us. Hey, Brian. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And welcome to everybody else that's joining us that's
Yeah.
hopped on the live. And I wanted to have this conversation because when I say that this has been a really big deal lately in so many different aspects of life, for me and people around me, I said, we really need to talk about this. And right before the show today, me and Robert were actually having a really good debate back and forth about communication and what it means. And one of the things that you hit on with the transparency aspect is that a lot of why we don't authentically communicate is because of that fear of how what we say is going to be taken right. And I know that I'm a very straight shooter. I'm a hyper communicator. If I feel how I feel, I'm going to say how I feel because I want to be very clear. I don't want to leave anything for misinterpretation.
That part.
And the best source of understanding what I'm saying is by asking me directly and me being very clear. But
Yeah.
I recognize that even sometimes with us and with other people, um, of course, that don't always go over well, right? When you like being straight up, like this is how I feel, and you're saying it
That's
out.
because people aren't used to it because they used to
But
people dancing around feelings.
I think it's bigger than that. And that's what I was telling Robert. I said, I think the problem with that is that people hear and communicate from emotions. They don't actually communicate selflessly to understand. They communicate more so with protection for themselves. They communicate from how it made them feel and their own perception. And it doesn't allow a whole lot of space for them to communicate with someone else from that person's point of view. So we don't communicate empathetically. We communicate to defend our position or we get emotional right away. And
Which
so
also means we're not listening.
we're not listening. And so then, somebody says something, and if you get emotional right in the moment, there's the break in the communication right there because you're totally going to miss what that person was trying to say and what they were trying to convey. And now y'all arguing about emotions and you're not really seeing eye to eye or understanding what that person meant. And so, one of the biggest things with communication is that not only being transparent, but that we have to hear or listen to understand and not to respond, not to defend, not to be emotional about it, but really just to be very like objective and hear what that person's saying, because sometimes it's not about you, it's not about hurting you, it's more about that person trying to explain what they need. And I feel like that in itself is the whole root of why we is so not getting along, why women and black men are just not getting along with each other, because we are saying so many of the same things. The things that we feel, things we frustrated about is
Come on.
so similar.
Come on.
But because we're hearing from emotion, we're not hearing to understand, to comprehend, and to, to fix, to plan, to figure out how to make it better. And we're hearing to defend ourselves, to safeguard our emotions. We're
Come on.
completely missing the mark that, damn, we feel the same way. Like, I hurt you, you hurt too, and
We
I
hurt.
hurt, and you hurt, and we both hurt, and we hurt about the same
You
thing.
hurt. I hurt.
Right. We
We
missed
hurt.
that opportunity to say, I understand where you're coming from, and I know how that feels, and I don't want to make you feel that way. And how can we fix it? So I want to talk about, what things have you seen communication, or the breakdown in communication? How have you seen it firsthand for you, and getting in the way and causing more of a divide between people?
Now what? I was up here doing my little jig, sis, because you was speaking.
I'm just saying.
Now my
I'm,
jig
I'm
comes
just talking.
to
Oh, I'm just
oh, we gonna talk today. Okay.
talking.
Now listen. Now the jig was coming from a deep joy within my heart, because as you were talking, what you were saying, sis, what you were saying was the four agreements.
I know you love this. Please, y'all, if y'all have not read or audiobooks, you can actually find the Four
YouTube.
Agreements on YouTube for the free 99. It's there. But it's also only a few dollars on Audible if
Support
you
that
do
man.
that type of thing.
Mhm.
So definitely check it out, because when I say that, is all on this book, and it was a very powerful book. It's a
Yeah.
lot of takeaways from me. I've downloaded his other books now, so I'm just finding the time to listen
Ooh,
to
put me
them.
on. I
Oh,
ain't read the other ones yet. Put me
oh,
on.
he got one about love. Hold on,
Put me on.
let me hook up the Audible.
Put me
The
on.
Audible, I gotta find it. But here we go. He has several other books, and one day,
I need to read all of them because four agreements to change your life.
it was really good. I've had some really good Audible books lately. Really have had
And
so
what's the
much.
name of the author again?
The what?
The name of the author?
His name is his name is Don Miguel Ruiz.
Okay. Y'all go holler
And
at
I've
Don.
also downloaded The Mastery of Love, which is a book of his.
Ooh.
That's only about a 2 hour listen. And then
Ooh.
he has another one that I haven't downloaded yet. But I will say I did have some really good, strong takeaways from the Four Agreements.
Search it right
I
now. You said the mastery of love.
The Mastery of Love. Yes,
Say
ma'am.
less. I'm gonna come back to that.
You'll
Okay.
come back to that.
Back
But you
to
were
it.
saying about the Four Agreements.
What I was saying, my jig from my joy in my spirit, from you coming straight from the book of
Oh,
four
go ahead,
agreements.
sis.
Okay. Which was it ain't about you. You gotta stop. Like the darn near the root of all evil is lack of social emotional learning and people getting in their feelings about stuff that ain't got nothing to do with them. And that's the root of darn near all evils. Like it's not about you. And though you are emotionally attached to the situation, because if you weren't, if you didn't care, you wouldn't be as upset as you were. A
Mhm.
lot of times these conflicts and communication breaks down when you're close to someone, because if you're at work, a lot of times you don't care. You're gonna communicate thoroughly because you're not worried about necessarily their feelings. The job needs to get done, your money on the line, all of those things come into play. So you're gonna communicate a little clearer. But when it comes to people that you love or in closer quarters with, your family, your friends, your spouses or significant others, sometimes your kids, your parents, you know what I'm saying? All of those things, the feelings get in the way. And a lot of the times when we let the emotions of what someone else did or didn't do affect us in a way where we can't even listen anymore, it's because it tapped into some trauma that we had.
That's usually the biggest issue. And communication or lack thereof is a trauma, and we don't realize that. Sometimes we can be conditioned from very little to bite our tongues. That's why I'm a big believer in allowing my kids to advocate for themselves, even with me. Because in doing that, I'm also giving them the space to learn how to communicate. And I need them to get very comfortable with communicating and advocating for themselves and speaking up about their true, authentic feelings, because the longer in life you go, there's going to be a lot of reasons to bite your tongue. And what happens in that time is that you end up causing, injury to yourself. The more
Yeah.
you bite your tongue, the more you hurt yourself, because people walk over you. They don't respect that something with crossing a boundary. So
Yeah.
I need them to get very comfortable.
Or they don't even know the boundaries are there for them to cross because you ain't told them they was there.
Because you ain't told them that it's there. And so
And
we
that
have
is
to
my
remember
point.
that.
So you asked me what was my personal, I'm gonna say trauma and communication or lack thereof. That was exactly mine, and that's why it is not mine anymore. I say
Right.
what I need to say. Okay.
Breaking curses.
Listen, I am breaking curses. I am not passing that on to my children. Okay, or my child rather.
Oh, you said it
Because
right, because we speaking them other babies into existence. I said what I said.
my child. So I let him speak to me. I was on the phone earlier today and with one of my friends, she called, and so it ends up being an impromptu virtual play day because she has a little girl and my son, and he started busting out books and reading to the little baby. She's younger, so he's reading to her and show playing with toys and all of that. And in that moment, he was reading his book. And he calls me mommy teacher. So when we were doing learning time, he's like, I'm listening to the mommy teacher. So I'm like, okay, baby, okay. And so as he was reading his book, and so I would go into the conversation with my friend, the other mother on the phone, and he's like, excuse me, you're not listening to the Jaleel teacher. I need you to stop talking on the phone to your friend. You're not listening to the Jaleel teacher. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, but see, now let's be honest. Can we be honest for a second?
Please be honest.
Old school parents.
Would have been like, who you talking to?
Cross.
Who
You know what I'm saying?
who
I
is you
wouldn't say that
talking
to
to?
my grandma. I wouldn't never fix my mouth to my grandmother, Shay Mary.
Or another adult in the presence of grandma or mama.
Exactly. That'd have been a clean slap across the room.
Mm.
you know, but because I'm allowing him to own what he needs, to own his voice, to say what he needs to say, even if he does say something inappropriate. In that moment, I didn't think that was inappropriate. I'm like, okay, I want him to listen to me when I'm mommy teacher or mommy in general. So if he's Jaleel teacher right now, I need to show him some respect because that's what I would want in that
Yes.
same situation. So instead of boy, who you talking to, bop bop bop, or in a
Mhm.
place of trauma, maybe feeling embarrassed on the phone because that's really what it be. Especially when something happened in front of somebody else, it's a place of trauma and embarrassment that we work
Yes.
out in front of.
Because then
Oh,
you wonder what they say. Oh, they just must let them kids run and do whatever they want in
right.
their house. You know,
And in
that's the
my
first thing
personal
people
opinion,
say.
I don't care because this is my child. I'm gonna raise him how I want. So in that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Jaleel teacher. And I, turn the phone back to the book. And I was like, boop, boop, boop. And she laughed, and we kick it and we keep going. Cause no, one, I'm not surrounding myself with people that's gonna even feel that type of way.
Facts.
Two, I'm raising my son to be able to speak up. And again, that's a respect. In that moment, he was Jaleel teacher to him. And in that moment, he needs to know that when the teacher is talking, and I'm the student in this moment, I need to show him respect. And so that's going to roll over to me when I'm talking to him in certain situations. That when he starts going to school, that's going to roll over to that. And so in that moment, that was a teachable moment. I'm showing him how you honor and respect a teacher when they're
That
talking
goes
to you.
back to also remember growing up. I know I heard this excessively. Always look your person in the eyes when you're talking to them, because that's a sign of respect and attentiveness, and you are listening to them and you're engaged. So even to this day, as an adult, like I try and make sure that I'm looking you in the eye. And so I never even gave that principle to my kids, but they have it. Like I've never consciously said, look at me when you're talking to me. I've never had to say it, but they
They learn
always
what they
look at
see.
me They always make eye contact when they're talking to you, unless they're having a moment and they need to regulate themselves. So they're like, okay, let me take a deep breath. But they always look at you when
Yeah.
you're talking. And I think that that's super important that we recognize the different layers of communication too. To your point, like advocating is a form of communication. Commanding respect when you're talking is a form of
That's
communication, right?
huge. That
It's
makes
a
me
huge
proud that
thing.
he's like, he could turn to me and say, "Excuse me, mommy, you're not listening to the Jaleel teacher in the moment." Because that makes me feel that when he goes out into the world, and he's very talkative and communicative, he'll tell you exactly what's working and what's not. Okay. And I love that. Because when he go out into these streets, and I may not be with him, or he gets older, and
Mhm.
of course I'm not gonna be with him all the time, or anyone else maybe, from the family or whatever, he's going to be able to say yes, no, I like this, I don't like this,
Mhm.
especially because I'm raising him to eat a certain way. So though he likes food and it looks good, and he, still 3, so he ain't fully there, but he knows we say vegan. He eats vegan. What are you? I'm vegan, Chef Jaleel, when he's chefing in the kitchen. Okay, you know what
I
I'm saying?
love it.
So he's learning if it's
Right.
plant-based, animals are friends, not food, those type of things, that he will be able to be the person that I raised him to be, even when I'm not there, because he's going to stand up for himself and not let someone else dictate him, and be silent. I love it. Yes.
Um, yeah, my some of my animals is my food. I'm
Yes.
not there yet.
I'm aware.
I'm
Girl, but I'm gonna have me a vegan dinner this year for my birthday. I've decided. So it's gonna be real nice. I'm gonna get a chef. We're gonna get a nice little space, and we're gonna eat. Girl, you invited, okay? COVID
Oh,
safe.
I knew that already. Because if you hadn't invited me, I will parachute out in the middle of your dinner. Okay, right out in the
Sanders
middle.
coming down.
Look, listen, I'm a brat like that. They gonna be losing me. Like I'm coming. I'm coming. I will
Girl,
skydive
you
right in the
should try.
middle.
We're gonna get you some vegan eats, and they gonna be delicious.
Look, okay. I won't. I'll be friendly to animals for that night only. But
Yes,
I love me some
animals
yard
will be
bird.
harmed in the process
I
of my
mean,
birthday dinner.
I'm telling you, at least once or twice a month, I'll be like, get this. I'm letting go of all of this meat stuff. I'm just gonna let it go. And then next thing I know, I'm ordering a 6-piece wing from my friend restaurant with extra mild sauce and be like,
Shout out to supporting the black owned business though.
oh, shout out to Trev. He know how and one of the things I appreciate
Trev,
about
you got vegan options.
no girl, he has a Chicago's chicken shack. It's all chicken.
Trev, you can have some oyster mushroom vegan chicken options.
Well, hey,
Trevi Trev.
put
You know
that
what I'm
out
saying?
there. But
Get
that's
all the
that's my
coins.
dude. And the chicken is woof. And he knows.
Fried and separate grease though, Trev. I'm with you
Like,
though.
I'm trying to tell you though, the chicken king, he be on it. And he know when he see my order come through, he know just how much mild sauce I need on my chicken. He got me.
He got you right.
He got me. It's girl. I've been
That's
going,
because you communicated your order well the first
man.
couple of times. So now he know what you need.
It don't never not be
That's the
right.
power of communication. When you set them boundaries up front and you communicate
Now,
what's fine and what's not.
girl, now we be
Stand
thinking
on
about
that.
mild sauce and chicken wings, and
I'm low
so
key up
that's
here
a
thinking
whole
about
nother.
oyster mushrooms now. I ain't even gonna lie
Ain't
to you.
nobody eating no earth boogers. I keep telling you. Oh, please don't give me no earth
I
boogers at
am.
the party.
I'm
I got it.
eating oyster mushrooms. I am.
Oh, you're eating
Yes,
oyster mushroom.
yes.
You,
They
you,
are scrumdiddlyumptious.
you are eating
If
them. Not me.
anybody watching has ever had an oyster mushroom, testify in the comments for me for the one time. For the one time.
I don't care what they say. I'm not eating earth boogers. That's what they are.
Listen,
If the
but
earth could sneeze, it would have little bit like the little stop up. That's what mushrooms are. They don't
I'm
call it fungus for nothing.
I'm not even finna play with you first of all. For the visual of the earth snot booger mushroom, I'm not gonna play
I'm
with you.
trying to tell you.
You
I don't want.
thought about this. Like, tell baby girl to draw
I'm
up the
serious.
cartoon graphic for you because you've thought about this
I've thought this one all the way through. Just the
all the way. You had
consistency
the
of it is just.
imagery.
It's weird. I don't like the way
But
they
different ones
feel.
have different consistencies.
I
There's like
believe
a
you.
billion different kind of mushrooms, and they're different.
I believe you, sis. But that's a no for me.
That's a no for
That's
me,
a no.
dog.
That's you gonna have to trick me. Quick story. Back in the day, my family used to always go to what was called a wild game picnic. And so they had all different types of wild food. Like, so, yes, when I say like wow, sis, like I've had rattlesnake, shark, I've had lion, I've had bear.
Where your family from? Where your people from? Who your people?
This used to happen every year. My
Who
uncle
your folks?
used to
Where
get
they
tickets.
from?
No, it used to be up here in like Maywood, girl.
But
Not
no,
even
where they
that.
from?
They
They may
from
live here
here.
now, but where they from?
They from here, girl. I've had
Who
some
came
really,
up through the Great Migration and where were they from?
I've had some very strange food, and I was very not trying to try any of it. And my brother would be like, "Oh no, it's just a different type of way they prepare the ribs, or it's beef, or it's this," and I would be like, "They don't look
That
like
sound
no
like
beef."
my brother. She's on some brother stuff.
I'm like, "They don't look like beef." He's like, "Trust me, it's beef." I didn't have raccoon on accident. That is nasty. That is nasty. Raccoon is, but rattlesnake was very delicious. It was very delicious. I was pleasantly surprised. So I know if I was ever on Naked and Afraid, I'm gonna be looking for some rattlesnake because it was delicious. I could definitely
But
eat
I'm
that.
looking for a rattlesnake.
It was good, but I was saying that to say I can be a little adventurous with the food now, and I can try some stuff. I've tried some things. I've had some things that's been out there, but I draw the line at earth bullies.
And not raccoons?
I said on accident. I had no idea what he told me that it was something
Like I
else.
wasn't aware. I
I
wasn't
wouldn't
aware.
have eaten it if he had told me, and he knew that he had to trick me into it. If he had said it was barbecue raccoon, I would not have even. But
You know
so
what? My
that's
brother
when you
got me
trust
like
your
that
brother.
one time, but he wasn't all the way wrong. Cause you know how they used to have those sales at McDonald's? We were young. I was in elementary school, maybe like third grade or something. Where they do like the 30 cent, 60 cent burgers or whatever. So my mom got a whole bunch, right? And right before that, maybe I don't know how long before that, I had stopped eating beef because in school we learned about mad cow, and I was like, bump that noise. And I've always been this type of person, I suppose. like
Mhm. I
I'm
was gonna say it's lingered into
Cause that's
adulthood.
dead. That's dead serious. How I became a vegetarian and a vegan. I had a philosophy class, and we learned about, and I was like, I don't need it. I'm good. And that's how I became the Natalie you see before you today.
I see. Carry on.
But at this time, elementary school, I stopped eating beef. I was doing good. My mama would make time I'd be eating sides. Listen, I was doing good. She came in there with them burgers. I'm like, yeah. But I still was holding strong. Baby, my brother come over there like, what these McDonald's burgers? You know they don't use real beef. And I don't know if it was young mind Natalie or I was hungry Natalie. I don't know, maybe a mixture of the two. But I was eating that burger, and then like everybody started laughing, like that's beef, right? And at that point, I was like back eating beef.
See, that goes back to the whole communication thing. See, when people don't communicate transparently and authentically, you wind up doing some stuff against your morals and values, right?
You feel
You
me?
be silent. So we gotta draw that back to the
You gotta
conversation
draw the
again.
line. But
Because
see, that's what I was saying. Like, if you don't, and this is what I was saying, my trauma, my personal trauma with communication. I was the one that did not speak my piece. I was the one that did not say what needed to be said. And like it was really interesting because it was in those situations we talked about with someone close to me. And so like in life in general, I was not for none. And it was funny because that was like the running joke, like Natalie, she not for none. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I communicated clearly and effectively where I went. But it came to like relationships, family stuff, but specifically my romantic relationships.
Mhm.
And baby, I was letting stuff slide. I
Why
was letting
was
stuff
that though?
slide.
What prevented you from being able to really communicate how you were feeling? What was it that got in your way?
I think for me, I've always been a peacemaker. I've always been like, if I had to choose to fight, or if I could
Mm.
also just be lining over there and ignore that, I'm gonna ignore it. So it was a little bit of that, not wanting conflict. It was also a bit of the ideal. I was at the time, and still honestly, probably to this day, true. struggling with the ideal of what being or the type of woman I wanted to be. Let's say that.
Mhm.
So for me, it was always this ideal of me, and then it was the actual me. And the ideal
Mhm.
is always this pedestal version, right? And it's still to this day. Like, now it's probably a little bit even more so, but the me, now being grown, I don't care. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna still be me. You can think that that's the only part of me, but I got these other areas. You know what I'm saying? Because like,
Right.
oh, we gonna talk. We talk about the real. I ain't holding nothing back because this is what it is. You feel me? You gonna learn today if you think that was all it was.
Right.
But what at the time, especially romantically, it was like, okay, what is a good woman? Okay, what is, and then me trying to decide what that was for me. And so it was always the cool girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the narrative for Black women was naggy, I wanted to be the opposite of that. So I'm like, I'm not gonna say much.
That.
And
That.
yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? I want to be peaceful. I'm gonna let
Mhm.
certain things slide because I'm the cool girlfriend. You ain't gotta worry about much. You know what I'm saying? And then another part of that was me saying I don't need much. And not in terms of like checklist of a person, if that's even
Mhm.
a thing. Because I don't really do checklists. But it was I don't need much as a, because again the narrative is like, oh, women need a lot, they need this, that and not and expensive stuff and blah 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 blah. So my narrative was, oh, I don't need a lot, I'm not an expensive bro, but honestly that's still me. I'm not like an expensive person. Louis Vuitton can kiss my butt and all that other stuff,
Right.
but at the same time I do need a lot.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I absolutely
Realistically, we all do, and that's probably a really big thing that gets in between us getting what we really need is that we want to feel simple. We don't want to be complicated, and I think that that's a disservice to us because now we're not communicating what we authentically need. So then the closed mouth never gets fed, so we don't get it, and then in that turn we get resentful, we get angry. I know a point that you just made for me was especially that. So I have a very fiery personality. I'm very outspoken. When I feel some way, I feel some way. I'm either super nice, sweet, loving, kind, just gentle Sante, or I'm the full raging bull in the china shop. Like I don't really have. I'm learning to
a
perfect that in
neutral.
between. I'm getting better, and I've been really noticing that in the past year, especially that I'm really starting to find my common ground in between the two. But if you ask people, they like Sante is a very fiery person, or if she's mad, when she's mad, she's mad, like she's out there. But it takes a lot. I usually allow a lot to happen before I get there, and then by the time I get there, I'm explosive because now everything done built up. I'm angry about so much that now you got the full eruption. It's the volcano. And
Right.
a big part of why I learned to do it that way is to kind of let stuff pass, let stuff roll over, is because I didn't want to be the angry, fiery person that everybody was trying to make me out to be. I didn't want to always be described as being confrontational or
Mhm.
the angry dark skinned black woman. As a dark skinned woman, it's very easy for people to label you that way,
And put you
even if you're not angry, even if you're just being passionate about something or emotional about something, right? You automatically get put into that angry black woman box. And I did not want to get trapped in that box. So I learned to kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna pick my battles. I'm not gonna fight that battle. I'm not going to fight this battle. I'm going to be quiet or just kind of give a like a little gentle warning, like, okay, I didn't like that. And then if people keep going and going, then now you don't flip the switch. And now I'm the person I didn't want to be. And
yeah.
I learned that I'm doing myself a disservice because I don't want to be this angry person, but I don't have to be, right? Like there's a way, there's a method
Because
in
also, if you keep
communicating.
allowing it, they're going to keep doing it, which is going to keep building up, which gets to the volcano.
And when I say I erupt, like and when I tell people that I have a really, really, really bad temper, they're like, no, you don't.
That's
You're not gonna say because I really do. Like she be in there. If you could see my alter ego when I'm mad, and she trying to come out. I'm like trying to stuff this heifer in a hamper, like girl, like I'm like trying to keep her in the pot, like don't come out now, don't come out, Jean. Just
in the head like
stay
stay down,
girl, chill
stay
out,
down.
girl. Don't start clowning now. Like we're gonna behave. So I really try not to let her out,
You
but
be over there like Black Widow talking to the Hulk. All right, sun's getting real low, big guy.
be like, okay, we're gonna think. I be so trying to talk her down because when I get mad, I'm a whole different person and I know it. Like I scare myself when I'm really angry. Afterwards, I be like,
And you know what? And that's what I tell people all the time because I don't get angry. And like I don't remember the last time I was like really angry at something. And so people say that and they're like, oh, you know, they see me and they're like, you're always so happy, you always got so much energy, you boo 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 boo. And then I was like, yeah, because I don't think you want to see me angry. I don't think I want to see me angry. I ain't met her yet, so that makes me scared. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you want to get that.
oh, I done met her, and I'll never forget the first time that Robert actually saw the other Sante, and he was like, I'm gonna leave, and then I'm gonna come back because I was like, that's that, yeah,
That seemed like the safest bet.
yep, safe as bad, because I try not. When I say I try not to get mad, and it takes a lot for me to get to that person, but when I get angry, Sante, after I calm down, I'll be like, "Ooh, jeez, she acted a fool, didn't she? She cut up.
What happened, don't she? Like you wasn't on
Out of
her.
control."
She needs to get that
Oh,
together. She shouldn't
like,
even said that to you.
she needs some help. She needs some milk or
She
something
needs some
wrong with her.
milk.
Girl, I try not to get there, but what I also learned in that as I started to do the healing work with that is that a lot of that is linked to communication and feeling like I couldn't say what I wanted to say. Like it's hard to be nice and be respected. It's hard to be gentle and be respected, and
Yeah.
feeling like I have to be very stern, very rigid on how I feel about stuff. And I think a lot of us adopt that mentality sometimes when it comes to communication. So the way we're conveying how our feelings or what we're trying to say can come off aggressive, even if we don't mean it that way. But we can be aggressive in trying to be assertive, right? And then that other person is gonna be like, hold on a minute. Now, who you talking to like that? You know, what's going on? So it's really important that we find a middle ground. Get some comments here. I see, hey, Amber, she's welcome. She said, with me, it's a moment of now I didn't have to say all that. Their grandma didn't have to know, didn't have nothing to do with. Listen, be
Keep it
petty,
there.
right? Like when you mad and you get discombobulated with your communication, you get petty, 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 petty.
And you know, another way I think people one build up will get you there. So like if you keep stuff and stuff there, you only got so much room to stuff before that stuff pop back out. I think another reason why people get really intense with their communication is because trauma again, and their trauma is not being heard. So whether it was them in their family situation or whatever it is, where their voice was not heard, and so now that they have a voice and they're an adult and they're out on their own or whatever it is, they like, you gonna hear me. And even in times where they don't have to fight to be heard, they still have that same energy because that's what's been trained within them. So I think that's something to identify too, that people come from different backgrounds and different situations and different traumas, which affects the way that they communicate. So where one person may have been shunned in their household and couldn't say what they need to say, so now that they're grown, they're gonna say it. Another person may still be mute, and you still may have to pull at them in their communication. So I think when it comes to communication, being an adult and being in relationships, whether it be working relationships, friendships, or romantic relationships with someone, even family relationships, we have to be understanding to how people communicate, but we don't always have to accept how people communicate to us. I think
That
that's
part,
huge.
that
So like, especially when you're in the healing process and identifying your traumas, like I can speak mine because I've done the work. Like I've gone and looked over my life and situations and I've done the work. So I know for me why I wasn't speaking up for myself or saying what I need to say, which is why I do it so much now. And I still don't need the Gucci, but oh, I need a lot as far as emotionally, as far as a time, as far as you gonna treat me to a certain caliber. We not, you know what I'm saying? Like
I
that,
dig it.
I
I
need
dig it.
that.
That,
And
and that shouldn't be negotiated,
it's
honestly.
not. That's non-negotiable. You're gonna treat me how I deserve to be treated, or we. It was beautiful getting to know you. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great life.
Listen, I
And
hope
people
you
may
find
think
the right person.
because of that. Like like my mom has even said to me, like now that I'm an adult, she's like, when someone say something or do something one time that you don't like, you move different. And I'm like, absolutely, I do.
So that I am kind of getting more and more comfortable with that. I'm the opposite. It takes a whole lot, which was also a big part of my communication breakdown, that I had to realize is that I would get very angry about fat in particular. So, like, I give a lot of chances, I give a lot of grace. And it takes a lot for me to cut a string. But when I cut the string, when I'm done, I'm done.
And
I'm done. I'm done, done. So I try, especially if I really care about you, it becomes really important for me to not cut the tie unless I'm sure that I'm done, done. So I give a lot of grace. I give a lot of chances. And then people would do stuff. And then I'd be mad as hell and be like, look, I keep trying to give you grace and you keep doing the same thing.
And
But
I don't negate giving grace. Everybody
mhm,
deserves grace because everybody has a bad day. Everybody makes a mistake. So also, what I told my mom is like, even when people do certain things, and I do move, I shift. I say, oh yeah, I don't negate that at all. I shift.
right.
I don't always immediately shift completely away. I may just move back and
You
watch how
make
you move.
adjustments.
Right. And then if it continues, then I'm gone. And I'm gonna let you know exactly why, or I'm just gonna dip. And if it doesn't matter, then we both good. Like you know what I'm saying?
Let's pause there because I think that that's a huge part of communication that we need to work more on. Um, is most people say that they, get closure in certain things. I think sometimes it's really important having some sort of communication when certain relationships are shifting or adjusting or changing, because that's an opportunity for us to learn and understand. Now, some people say, I don't see the point of doing that. I don't think I need to go over why I'm not dealing with you no more. When I'm done, I'm done. But I would like to see us get to a point where we can be more expressive and communicate more on why things shift, in hopes that even if that person don't accept what you said, even if it's not going to change who they are, you have stated your piece, because there's something peaceful in that and being able to walk away from a situation. I think when we find ourselves reopening doors to situations that we know aren't necessarily the healthiest for us, it's
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't have that opportunity to really, communicate where we stood ever. And that kind of follows us. What do you think about that? And how, even when things are shifting and changing and we're letting go relationships, I still feel like it's necessary for some sort of communication and closure, or just making your peace.
I think it depends on the situation. Like if it's toxic and you've been saying this the whole time and they just ain't got it, you just dip. You
That's
just let
different.
your
We're
piece
not
out
talking about that. We're
there.
talking about, like, I'm sure some of us have had relationships where we were mad at the other person. They did something. We was just like, I'm not talking to them no more. And you never really
Say
gave them the right. It's just like, I just cut you off. I'm just done. I'm just cutting straight.
now I'm a strong fan of communicating in those points.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a relationship. I think I might have talked about this on the show before, where I had a friend from high school, and we had, we all went to different colleges, so we kind of kicked it every once in a while. But then when I got back home, we kicked it a little bit harder because we were both in Chicago, so we would link and all of that. And then she would just she just like wouldn't respond to my messages and stuff like that. So for me, even in those situations where I notice other people getting distant, and I said this to my mom when she said that to me the other day too, I can't force myself in anyone else's presence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you decide to move around or move out of my life for any reason, that is your decision, and I respect that. And other people should feel the same way when I remove myself from situations too. Because we have no control over other people. We just have to respect their decisions. And so I noticed that. And so I sent her a message. And I'm like, hey, sis, I'm noticing, boo, 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 you haven't really responded. And, for whatever reason, I'm just trying to see what's going on. But I'm like, but if this is your decision, you decide whatever. And if you don't respond, I'll take it as what it is. And she
Mm-hmm.
never responded. And we haven't really talked since then. And so I did my due diligence to be like, all right, am I missing something? Boo, boo, boo. No, okay, cool. And I mean, we still Facebook friends. It wasn't nothing petty, like we blocking each other or nothing like that. We just moved on. Like everything has phases. And we also have to understand that sometimes those phases and people moving on is blessings. You know what I'm saying? Because baby. So we have to be aware of that too. So I'm
Yeah.
a strong person as far as communicating closure. So even if I'm talking to somebody and it may be shifting and looking like this ain't finna work. Um, I see first. I go into my observation. I call it my observation mode. You know what I'm saying? We may be kicking it hard, and something happens. I'm gonna fall back a little bit. I ain't gonna stop
And
talking
pay
to you,
attention.
but I'm in observation mode. I'm watching how you moving and what you're doing and what you're saying, and if everything adding up, and
Right.
if it's gonna add up to you needing to be in my presence anymore or be giving you any more of my time. And if that's not a thing, if it's adding up to a no, then I'm going to immediately communicate that with you. Like, hey, really enjoy getting to know you or whatever it may be. This X, Y, and Z. Especially now that I'm standing in my voice, these past few like talking to people, because I ain't really had a committed nothing since my divorce, but these moments of talking to people, every exit, I let them know exactly what's going on. Like, all right, this happened and this happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's leading me to this and this.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure getting to know you. Hope and wish you the best. You know,
Peace out. Deuces.
and I'm going, but I'm gonna give you that. So you're not like, dang, she just ain't text me back. No, I'm gonna tell you. So you ain't lingering. I'm gonna let you know. And I feel like everybody to a certain extent should do that if the situation is healthy to do that. If
And
it's not
that was what I was looking for. Like only if it's healthy. I wouldn't say or recommend anyone to do that and it's not unhealthy. But I think a lot of times we get angry about something and we don't actually take the time or make the effort to communicate with each other. And so there are a lot of times that there was a misunderstanding that could have been so simply
Mhm.
rectified, right? But
Mhm.
because it's just like we like I'm not gonna communicate or I'm not gonna say nothing or I feel like I've said or made myself clear when sometimes we didn't. I hate when there are opportunities to communicate and it will actually be a benefit opposed to just throwing stuff away. I think sometimes communication can be very scary for people, like how we were saying, well, maybe that person doesn't want to hurt that other folks' feelings. But sometimes I think also it's scary for us to be vulnerable and communicate and say how we really authentically feel about something because what if that person doesn't take it the way we need them to? What if they use that and weaponize it against us, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes we'll shy away from having a communication with someone just because we're uncomfortable with communicating and we walk away from something that wasn't really meant to just be done. And I think that that's important too. I feel like we're cutting each other off in a lot of ways, especially as a community because of not wanting to do the work of communication because it's taxing. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. It's hard work communicating. It takes a lot.
Especially in relationships, like
And
romantic relationships specifically,
look, not just romantic relationships, but parenting,
friendships, and everything else.
all of that.
But
It's
I would say in romantic relationships because like one, we talked about this on the show before when we talking about dating and marriage and all types of other stuff. It's like a lot of people are getting divorces. A lot of people are getting divorces. And I feel like a lot of people are getting divorces because of communication.
I really
And
agree with
some because of finances and some because of some other things. But when it comes to communication, you have to have those deep conversations. You have to be able to bare your soul and be very intimate with this person. And a lot of people think intimacy is just sex. Intimacy is letting me in. You know what I'm saying? Letting someone in so they know you. And so
Intimacy is vulnerability, I think is
right.
what the word you're
And that
looking
was
for.
the first thing, my first
Mm-hmm.
point as far as communication, being
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, being transparent with your communication. So people get married and they don't know who they're truly married to. They have the face value for 10 years. Like they could be dating for
That's
forever.
a
Like,
PR agents. I say everybody has a PR agent. That's you be married
they
to a
done had that
stranger.
PR agent for a decade, and they
I'm
done
telling
married
you,
this
it
person,
happens.
had kids with this person, and then when you get to those moments where you married now, you're in this situation, you have to have these difficult conversations about family, kids, money, sex, whatever it is, and that person can't open up to you.
You should have those conversations prior to marriage, and that
Amen.
that
I
is
feel
when now, like, I just, it's so funny because even Amber will attest to this, who's on here with us. When we got married in the same year, so Robert and I got married in April, and her and her husband married in June. And I just remember being at her wedding. We still freshly newlyweds, so although at this point we had been together for many years, we got 2 kids, etc. We were still very much in the honeymoon, newlywed phase, right? And I just remember her videographer coming around and saying, like, what's the message you want to get? And I'm giving like the real cliche, like, don't go to bed mad. I always talk so and so, so and so. But now I listen, the advice that you need for having a successful marriage has had to come before you actually have the marriage. Like the best successful like direction you can have is having those conversations beforehand. And we shy away, which goes back to the communication point. We don't address those things and we don't push ourselves to have those conversations before because it's scary. So it's like if I have this conversation and I say something that this person doesn't like or vice versa, it can completely derail our relationship and we're heading in the right direction and I want to get married, I want to have a family. And so we don't have those conversations and we go into our marriages with the unknown, and
yeah,
now we in it. And now we trying to have these conversations and you realize, well, this person really didn't want kids in the first place, but you never talked about it. Or this
yeah,
person's credit is just so in the hole that you ain't gonna never get out of it. Or this person has never been real successful in communicating or doesn't really value the same things in marriage that you thought that they did. And I think that it's super important that we're communicating about marriage way before you actually do the I do's. Like getting on a
absolutely.
one accord, knowing that you all have the same understanding of, which is advice that I give. I tell people now when they're about to get engaged or they're about to get married, I say, what kind of wife do you want to be? What kind of husband are they wanting to be? What does it mean to you to be a wife? What does it mean to them to be a husband?
Do
And
they line
vice versa. Are
up?
they in alignment? Because that's a question we don't ask each other and we don't communicate about because everybody doesn't have the same understanding a lot of times on what it means to be a husband or a wife or to be a
Definitions. That's the thing. Mental definitions of a lot of things be different. And we assume that was one of my communication points too. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume I know. I'm not gonna assume you know. Because it could be something as simple as, but not simple, as complicated and simple at the same time as what is being a man? What is a man? What is a woman? Right? Like you said, what is a husband? What is a wife? Who should take care of these roles and responsibilities? Or are we both taking care of these roles and responsibilities? Like
Mhm, mhm.
we all have different definitions and things attached to that, but we may assume going in assuming that it's the same until you get in there. You go, whoa, whoa, hold on now.
Hold on now. We don't do that here.
Whoa, okay, we
We
don't.
don't do that.
And one thing I think is really important, man, you had said it earlier, and I wanted to say something about it. When you were just
Come
talking.
on, sis. Pull it out. Pull it out.
Oh man, what was it? It was so good. I wanted to say something about it. But overall,
Where your notebook at?
it's over here. But I'm trying to go off
See
top
now,
today. You
see
know, I
now,
know
you
I be
done.
taking
You
my
need to
notes.
take it back to
You know,
Blue's
I be,
Clues. You
I
slipping
be
up.
taking my notes. I'm slipping
Get
today. I'm
your
sorry.
handy dandy notebook,
Sorry.
okay?
I'm slipping today.
You
I ain't
need to
write it
be,
down.
because
I was
yeah,
trying to be in the conversation.
you can still be
But
in the conversation just with your handy dandy
with my
notebook.
notebook. But overall though, I really feel like it's important that we have those conversations beforehand, like you were saying, and that when it comes to the real, that's what it was. Here it is. We don't be afraid to not ask the questions and show our true selves because someone may leave. Because if I show it now and you leave, you're not the person for me. I said this. I
If
think we
they
had.
leave, they will. I don't know why they think that marriage is gonna keep them once you're married.
If
So
they
you
want to
know,
go, when they see who you are, they'll let them go because they don't want you. They want your
right?
PR agent. They want
Mm-hmm,
that pedestal version of you. No, 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 no.
mm-hmm,
No, no.
mm-hmm.
So I come from the door letting people know where I'm at now. I'm like, look, even when it comes today, I'm like, look, I'm single till I'm married. I just need you to understand this. So if that's not good
Like,
between
so that
you,
mean that I'm still
I
dating other
got it.
people. You are
Right.
not the only one on the
You
roster. Okay.
and I expect you to do the same
You
until
in the starting lineup, but
right.
you know, there's a whole other roster.
Until a conversation happens, because communication, that we aren't we on another level, and then we can talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. You know what I'm saying? If you ever feel that shift, we need to immediately talk about it to see what next steps are going to be. And I think people are afraid of that because someone want to run away. People are afraid of, if someone says that up front, to say, they'll be like, no, I'm good with that, knowing you not good with that. If you not good
You
with
need
that,
us to not do that. I'm
you
gonna need us to so
there.
not do that. It's so many times that we bite our tongues and we don't communicate that something's not okay with us out of fear of not having that person's approval or them not wanting to pursue us. But we have to be completely comfortable with that, because you don't want to live that life forever. That is exhausting, being
Yeah.
somebody else. Be yourself, and you want someone
Oh,
that's loving you for you. One of the things that wow, when I first met Robert, I was like, look, I don't want to waste your time. These, I'm very aware of my flaws,
right.
and
And
these
he
are my flaws.
called the brakes.
I'm telling you, I told him straight up. I was like, these are the things that I've had complaints about. Like, these are the things that I know to be true, that, you know, I'm a work in progress. And some of these things are just who I am. So, you know, I wanted to be upfront with you about it so that you can make an informed decision now. Do we proceed? Are we
That
doing
part.
this? Are we
That part.
talking? Or not? And he was like, that was very different for him. He's never had that. And I've done that always. I'm
I
not
need
gonna pretend.
everybody to come with that energy.
I'm not, look, pretending is exhausting, and I
No,
ain't getting a
it's
check for it either. It ain't like I'm pretending I'm getting paid to be an actress, you know, for
not right.
you
This
to
ain't no
like.
series. This is my
Look,
life.
it's exhausting. And then if you're not careful, that is a big reason why we carry around so much resentment for one another. It's like, I sacrificed how I really felt about this, or I sacrificed that this was important to me, but nobody asked you to do
Right.
that. And you shouldn't do that. You literally shouldn't do that. And that's part of why it's super important for communicating where you are and getting past that breakdown. And
Because I
always,
was also that person.
don't be
Like
that.
high school, beginning of college, I was that person. I would stay in relationships. I knew I didn't feel the same way as the other person just because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. You know what I'm
And
saying?
where did that
I'll
get
be
you, sis?
okay. I'll be all right.
And where did you end up with that?
Nowhere.
Exactly.
Like
Nowhere at all.
authentic. I had a conversation with Russia. Shout out to Busy.
Shut out the rush.
This was years ago. No, it was like maybe like a year ago. And it stemmed from we're gonna talk conversation. So we was
You
talking
know,
afterwards off screen.
it definitely all seems like the continuous year. I swear we still in 2020, but that's a whole other story. Go ahead, carry on.
So he was like, basically, he started off by saying my expectations were too high. And so of course I was like, do say more. And that also relates back to closure and what you were saying earlier. I think it's important because I think we should all listen with the open heart to whatever anyone has to say, even if they don't like us or even if they feel some type of way about us, because it all comes with some kind of truth. And you can throw away what you need to, because some people just be hating or whatever it is. Throw away what you need to, but keep what may resonate and make shifts because of that. Sidebar. But anyway, so he was like, you know, what I say, he said,
Your standards were too
your
high.
stand is too high, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, please elaborate. How do you think that? So he had to go to the drawing board and come back different because he was like, you know what? No, you're amazing. Your standards are not too high. You deserve everything that you deserve. But what it's doing is limiting your dating pool. You looking for somebody real specific, and that's not going to be everybody. And I'm like,
Hmm.
exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I want. I don't want any and everybody. I need my dating pool to be smaller. People generally would scare somebody else into being like, maybe I could take some of this. No, no, no. I need my dating pool to be small because I'm not for everybody. I'm for a specific type of person. And so that's the type of person I'm looking for. So if you can't handle me the way that I am, the lifestyle that I live, my thought process, or anything else, then you're not for me. And that's okay.
And I
Everybody isn't for
think what
everyone.
he was trying to say, even with that, because I've had that same conversation with a lot of people, is that sometimes it's not about your standards being too high. I think that sometimes we're not being humanly realistic when it comes to certain standards. And so when you have a very specific standard, what it does is it doesn't allow grace, because we know that you have negotiables and non-negotiables, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes we can mix the two together and we can intertwine. So when you're dating, you do need to have, or when you're looking for a mate, because in marriage, you're going to have to really have those things where it's like, I can function well with these things. Like, I need these things. This is the air for me to breathe in our union. But these things are, I'm a little bit more flexible on. Like, they may be a nuisance, they may annoy me, and I would like for you to work on them and try to be a work in progress with some of them, or us to find a common ground. But I have some flexibility and some patience in that. But these things, like, if I don't get it specifically this way, this thing, I'm not going to be okay. And I think sometimes those things get intertwined when we're dating, and we mix up what things can really be a non-negotiable and what things are really negotiables for us. And so I think that he just kind of missed the mark.
But for me, my standards, air quotes on that word,
Okay,
it's
why
not,
the air quotes though? Why?
it's really because it's not really that specific. Like I'm very open-minded. And I think I've said this on the show too before, is that like after the divorce, when I decided like, okay, I'm ready to date again or whatever, my word to God was that I'm going to be open. And for me, it's not attached to any look, I don't have any physical standards where I'm like, you got to be this tall, your teeth got to
Look,
be straight, you know what I'm saying? I don't have
this is
any of
that's a good
that.
thing, because there's a lot of women that is real unrealistic. Like, where they have to have this specific packaging. My knight in shining armor has to
No,
come with an
I
eight pack.
don't have that.
He got to
My
be six pack.
my thing is things that specifically relates to me, the type of life I live, my energy, my spirit, my work that I do, like those
Right.
type of things. But other than that, I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm literally, I said it to God. I'm like, Lord, I'm gonna be open. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what you got for me, and what I'm thinking is for me may not be what you got for me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm open.
Right.
So I'm not even like really particular on that. It's not even like a certain tax bracket, a specific job. It's not any of those things on my
Mm-hmm.
list.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can grow and we can grow together or whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? If you treat me still the way I need to be treated, all of those type of things. So I don't even think it was that. I think he was literally like, you're limiting your pool of men. And I definitely want that. Like I definitely need my pool to be limited because I'm a special breed and I'm not for everyone. And we
Girl
can't be
said.
afraid to scare people away. If you're scared that easily, then you need to leave because you're
Well,
not for me.
I even hate the idea of it scaring people away. People make an informed decision. Like, now you know what it is, and if that's not your cup of tea, then let's not waste our time. And I think that we need to be completely comfortable in that. So many people get in relationships and it gets exhausting because they're trying to be someone that they are not. It's not
Yeah.
natural to them, it's not authentic to who they are. And
Yeah.
that's why it's super important that you're communicating what you need, how you feel, what you are, and getting comfortable in that communication. Without doing that, we're going to continue to get further and further apart, which is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I've been seeing just more and more like we don't freaking like each other. Like when I say we don't like each other,
Out of all the things you just said, it made me think about not only communication with each other and liking each other, but our communication with ourselves. Like, what are we saying to ourselves, about ourselves, through ourselves? What are we saying to ourselves? And feeling the need to conform to what somebody may want or somebody else's ideals or what I think this person may like or want, that is communicating to us that we are not good enough as we are who we are. And so our self communication, baby, that's a whole nother talk.
and that's a trauma in itself. And that was something that I'm still working on, and I came to the conclusion of is a lot of why I didn't communicate, a lot of why I bit my tongue in situations was I was a people pleaser. I wanted to please people. I wanted people to be happy with me. I wanted them to love me, to validate me, to see value and worth in me. And that meant that I had to sacrifice my authentic feelings a lot of time. And then as I noticed, I'm like, people got real comfortable. And then when people got so accustomed to you accepting what they want for you
Mm-hmm.
lose your own voice when it's something that you want for yourself. And that was something I truly had to work on where and I remember telling a coworker this where we were talking about because I'm very, very vocal at work. And she was telling me, she was like, I respect how you don't play. You tell them how you feel. I know they'd be so sick of my ass, and I don't care. And that happens at every single job I go to because there once upon a time I was at a job and I was unhappy, and people was talking to me and treating me any kind of way. And yeah, no, you don't own me because you give me a check. This job is replaceable. Okay, it's replaceable. So I've become very comfortable with speaking up for myself, even though it doesn't always feel good for other people. And my coworker was like, "Man, I wish I had the courage to speak up like that." And I said, "Listen, you'll get there. But let me tell you this, we are advocates for other people. And I don't want to see better for any of my clients or any of the people we services than I want for myself. How
Come
can
on.
I honestly call myself an advocate if I'm afraid to advocate? And how am I afraid to
Say
advocate for
it. Say it.
be here for me? Because being here for me means I can be there for them. And sometimes in advocating for me, I'm actually opening a door for them. I'm opening a door for you. And
Come on.
so I am more and more comfortable. Like they ain't gotta like me, and there's a way that you can say anything. But when I tell you I speak my mind, every job I'm at, I'm gonna tell you how I feel. If you cross me or you say something that's disrespectful, you can't talk to me no kind of way because I'm gonna let you know, like, like you don't pay me enough for that. It ain't enough money on this earth for you to own me and talk to me like I'm less than you, even if you have a higher position. And I've always struggled with that, but not struggled with that because I also be on top of my job. So it's like, well, she get her work done. I can't say, she right. She said what
But
she
that's
said.
a whole thing within itself because when it comes to advocating and standing up for yourself and communication in that way, when it comes to jobs, people do not want to do it because they're afraid of losing their job. And so when they do that, they lose themselves in their job. And people feel like they can treat them anyway, give them any assignments, talk to them any kind of way just because a paycheck. But baby, it's the abundance of jobs out here.
Let me tell you, I'm quick for being like, oh, wait, hold on a minute. I'm reading my job description, and that's not in it. I don't get paid specifically for that, and no, I don't have time right now. I don't. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing anything extra. So when I get asked
People be
now,
killing themselves at jobs
look,
that's gonna replace them the day after you die.
girl, without even sending your family a card, okay, your job will be posted, okay, and Nah, 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 fam. Ain't happening. And I think that we really need to get so comfortable with communicating in all aspects of our lives because it is essential. And if we want to get better, if we want to see our children do better, our generations feel more empowered, which is one of the things I'm giving it to this newer generation now. Some of these kids be out there with stuff now and they do need some help, but I've noticed that they are so less afraid to speak up for themselves, to advocate, to say how they feel. Like when they say we are not our ancestors, they mean it. And when they talk about not their ancestors, they even mean you. They even mean you. Because they're
About
not
all
going to
our
be
elders.
silent, right? Like they're not going to be silent, and I think that there's some
And
beauty in
just to clarify that, I know we just came up out of Black History Month, y'all. Shout out to Women's History because we make it history every day. Come on, Sante,
that.
sister girl, I celebrate you. This
Oh
Women's
no,
History
no, no,
Month.
no,
Okay,
no!
I
I
celebrate you,
celebrate
sister.
you. I
Sister, I
celebrate
receive it.
you. I
Sister.
I
Okay.
celebrate you.
It takes a goddess to know a goddess, sister.
Listen,
Okay.
look, I don't got no tambourine now, and I still ain't ordered my triangle and my cymbals. So
Listen.
I'm just gonna have to snap.
But I say that because I know a lot of people also get offended when they hear that I'm not my ancestors. And so I definitely identify and I see the way they say that. Like, I'm not going to break my back for nobody's job. I'm going to get it out the mud. I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure that you don't control me in that way and I get my coins up, which is absolutely approved. A1. The other way of that, though, is saying like our ancestors rolled over, baby. We ain't never been docile.
Mm, mm.
Never been docile since they
I've
first rolled
never,
up on the shore. We ain't never been docile.
I've
Um,
never.
even through slavery, it's a whole lot of revolts. I bet you ain't even heard about. Okay,
It's
what we
time.
talking about with Lincoln them? Lincoln ain't free no slave, baby. Lincoln ain't free no slave. Slaves freed themselves. The only reason why they won is because them black folks. Okay, and he didn't do it out the kindness of his heart. He did it because he was gonna lose without us. You feel me? So like,
More Franklin, economically and everything else.
and when we talk about not being our ancestors, I also just want to say like they were some bad people. Like I don't think we can make it through what they went through. So if we talk about not being our ancestors in some ways, that's not the best thing. Because I wish I was like them in a lot of ways. Because if it go down right now,
And I want to clarify that me bringing that up and saying like I don't mean it disrespectfully at all because
right,
our ancestors have done a lot of things to pave the way, like being able to just if we think about civil rights level before we go beyond that, just sitting and enduring the level of mistreatment that they did to prove a point.
absolutely,
There's a lot of our ancestors that laid their lives down so that we had paved the way. I think what they mean is that there were a lot of us still too that were honestly so afraid to speak up because we didn't want to lose our lives and we didn't want to do that. And I think that
absolutely.
this generation is like, man, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That I have a lot of respect for. We are rounding our hour, sis. We be trying to keep it to the
We
hour.
try.
And we try because we get to talking. Oh, we be talking on here,
Oh,
right?
we be
And,
talking.
and like I said before, it is snowfall night, and I need to get my Franklin on. I don't know if y'all
Okay.
feel me out there.
I
It's
felt
snowfall.
in my spirit that you was talking about you when you said that
I,
snowfall.
I snowfall is back. I meant me. God
I'm
love me some snowfall. I love me some Franklin Saint. Okay, I love me some Franklin Saint. He is just, I'm rooting for you, Frank. I'm rooting for you, Franklin. What's your closing thoughts on communication, sis, before we head out?
my closing thoughts on communication is so important. It's literally the foundation and the root of everything. Everything. Your self love, your self worth, your children's self love and self worth, because what you say to them becomes their inner voice and how they shift and move in the world. Relationships, literally, it's the foundation of everything. So if we are not taking the time to be more aware of how we speak, um, where we speak and where we don't, and really analyze the situation of our communication to make it better and the best that it can be, then we doing ourselves, our lineage, our friends,
Mhm,
our family, our
mhm.
coworkers, and everybody else around us a disservice.
Right.
But primarily us. a disservice. So it's a part of living your best life. I know everybody's talking about I'm living my best life, or you want to live your best life. If you truly want to live your best life, work on your communication and see how your life shifts. For real.
Facts. Facts. Okay. Facts, sis. Well said. Well said.
Thanks, sis.
Closing thought for me is that you deserve to be represented authentically and truthfully. And when you look at it that way and how important being true to you and be communicating your truth
Yeah.
is going to liberate you, it's going to free you, it's going to open the doors to my sis point for you and yours, for your generations to come. You have to be not uncomfortable to communicate. It really is suffering in silence if you don't. And if we're going to get better and learn to love each other again and reconnect, we have to communicate to understand and not to respond. We have to communicate to find common ground and to tap into empathy to move forward. And so, my hope is that if you take away anything today, other than communication is key and it's important, that you see the value in how we can restore it and what it can mean for us moving forward. Because we all about breaking curses here. We're all about the generational trauma and addressing it. And this too, and us not communicating properly is absolutely a curse that we can break and we need to. So I
Yeah.
loved having this conversation. It's always good to be back. I missed y'all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I missed y'all out there. Thank you all for hanging in there with us tonight. Now, if hopefully if you don't have it on DVR, you still got time to jump on to FX and check out Franklin. He's that's my boo. Don't tell Robert. Don't tell. I said that.
I'm gonna keep it on the hush, so
You don't
make
say
sure it's on the hush.
Franklin's my dude. Franklin's my dude. You know, I'm rooting for you, Franklin. I'm rooting. All right, y'all. Good night.